Welcome into the On3 studios here in Nashville, Tennessee. Today is Wednesday, April 24, and we are back talking recruiting. Spring games this weekend. We got Oregon, Nebraska, Colorado. Those are the big ones this weekend. And also the transfer portal is going crazy. We'll have updates on all of it in today's Inside Scoop, so let's get to it. Oregon's spring game is on Saturday. There are also going to be some five-star recruits in Eugene. So in this video, I got Scoop Ducks top insider Justin Hopkins on to talk some five-star visitors. But first, Duck fans, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We're growing this page. We need as many Ducks on here as we can get, so hit subscribe for me, please. All right. Bring in Justin Hopkins from Scoop Duck. We'll talk five-star visitors, and we're going to start with the number one overall player in the 2026 class. Rumors are swirling that he's going to reclassify up to 2025. So if we're talking about a 2026 prospect, this is a great foundational visit. But if we're talking 2025, this is a crucial time to get him on campus because he could be making a decision here in the next 3, 4, 5 months. So Jakeem Stewart, is this going to be his first visit to Eugene?
No, Stewart was on campus for an unofficial visit in late July to Oregon. They had their little Saturday Night Live event. But, I mean, if we're talking about now, it's later in April, so that's a pretty big span, from getting him on campus.
Yeah, almost a year.
And like you said, if he's looking at reclassifying, it now becomes a really big visit versus, this is a really good player in 2026. There's ways to go. Well, if you take a year off of that, there's a lot less time there. So, yeah, a very paramount visit for Oregon to what I feel is kind of like stay in the mix there and be in that top 5, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be in the conversation for Jakeem Stewart, you better get him on campus in the spring or early summer if he hasn't been on the campus yet this year. Elijah Griffin, now he's coming cross country. He already made a visit to USC, and that made a big impression on him. Can the Ducks do the same with the number 5 overall prospect in America?
Yeah, well, I don't think there's an Oregon fan that wants to see him go to USC. I always consider that a good sign that they're considering multiple schools out west. I get a little nervous when it's right. Oregon only and nobody else. So, that seems to at least give Oregon a chance that, Griffin's willing to maybe leave that, southeast footprint. This is the first visit that I'm aware of to Oregon. Obviously, it's a really big visit. It would appear Griffin's nowhere near making a decision. So like you said, this might be kind of a foundational visit for Oregon, maybe get their foot in the door for an official visit later on. But it's a heck of a way to get him on campus because an Oregon spring game can be a pretty electric atmosphere.
Yeah, and he already knows, having been to the West Coast, hey, it's going to take a little bit of time to travel out there. Hey, the weather's going to be a little bit different. The people are going to be a little bit different. But I think it is a good sign that he's going out there for the spring game. And I agree with you. Elijah Griffin right now, pretty wide open. I don't think a decision's coming anytime soon. Let's talk about 5-star DB DJ Pickett. He has been on campus numerous times, but in the meantime, it seems like LSU is really trending in this recruitment. Can the Ducks kind of regain that pole position with this visit?
Yeah, and I don't want to say that this young man's impressionable because I don't think that's fair, but he does seem to really, kind of latch on to his most recent visit a lot of times, and that's totally understandable. I'm sure they're all really fun, and everybody rolls out the red carpet for a guy like DJ Pickett. I think that he's been at Oregon at least a couple times, and I know coming out of both of those visits, Oregon's felt really good about where they stand with Pickett, and I'm not saying they felt like they lead or a commitment was coming, but, they were certainly in the mix. So I feel like you said, this is a chance for them to maybe regain or recapture some of that momentum. I know LSU's surging, Miami's surging. But once again, Pickett doesn't really seem like a guy that's about to make a decision in June or anytime soon. So, again, I use the phrase, you just kind of got to keep chopping wood if you're Oregon.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that's who's coming in this weekend. But there's one big 5-star we got to talk about before I let you go. Michael Fasusi, offensive tackle, out of the state of Texas, big-time offensive tackle, was in Eugene last weekend. He came a week before the spring game. Did the Ducks get a foot in the door with Fasusi? How do you feel about his recruitment after that trip?
Yeah, coming into the visit, I felt very lukewarm on Oregon's chances, and that being they hadn't had him on campus yet. he kind of kept Oregon under consideration in that top group, but I just never really felt like they were pushing. Immediately coming out of this visit, he mentioned, Oregon's definitely going to get an official visit from me now. We're going to work on setting that up when one was not in place headed into that visit. So certainly would sound like Oregon did enough to, make him want to get back on campus, make him take an official visit. I know his June is already very packed. So it makes you wonder, okay, is somebody getting bumped? Is he taking a midweek? What's the situation going to be like for Fasusi? But when it comes to offensive linemen this year, Oregon is definitely big game hunting for offensive tackles and interior offensive linemen. And of course, Fasusi is one of the best out there. So hopefully the Ducks can keep, again, chopping wood on this recruit.
All right, Oregon fans, let me know how we feeling about this weekend. Let me know, comment section below. Anybody that you have on commit watch, let us know. We're talking Georgia recruiting, but this time we're going to the transfer portal. Jaden Rashada is currently on campus in Athens as I record this. I got Jake Rowe from Dogs HQ in here to break this visit down. But first, Dog fans, do me a favor right now. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. It's going to be a busy offseason. We got you covered. Hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in my guy Jake Rowe from Dogs HQ and Jaden Rashada. Put his name in the portal. I think it was on Thursday or Friday, leaving Arizona State. By Monday, he's on campus at UGA. How did this transpire so fast? And is this indicative that the fact that he is a priority for UGA?
Well, Georgia was in a ready position when it came to quarterbacks. I mean, that's just all there is to it. We've been reporting for months over at Dogs HQ that Georgia wanted a quarterback in the spring transfer portal window. If you didn't know anything about hear anything out of the program, you knew that based on the fact that they went after Jaden Rashada way back in December, January, and kind of had him committed for a half day. So it was clear that Georgia wanted to get that quarterback room up to 4. And, Jaden Rashada was kind of the first dude to jump in that kind of gave you the, oh, man, this would be interesting. And, sure enough, we kind of got word fairly quickly, checking with sources and everything that Georgia was going to get involved there. Our portal guys, Pete Nakos, and he did a phenomenal job. He was on it quickly. Hey, this is a team to watch. So, it kind of all developed quickly because, heck, we got 14 days and for these guys to get in the portal. Obviously, they don't have to be, signed or get recruited just in the portal window. But it happened quickly because it had to happen quickly. Yeah. And obviously, it's a good sign. And Georgia's definitely, he's definitely a priority for Georgia, a priority position and a priority player at that position to kind of get to come in. He's a super talented kid, and Georgia knows that.
Yeah, so communication started quickly. The visit started quickly. Does a commitment come before he leaves campus? How long do you think this recruitment of Jaden Rashada to UGA lasts?
Georgia, here's my thing, Josh. I think if he's going to end up at Georgia, if he's going to choose Georgia in the period, I think it's going to have to happen quickly. And here's why I say that. UNC, Mississippi State, Auburn are all in the mix, right?
Yeah.
Those places offer him an opportunity to play now. And that's going to be hard for a guy to turn down if he starts to take visits to those places. I mean, right now, he's visiting Georgia because he wants the chance to develop, and I assume he's okay to an extent of waiting a year behind Carson Beck. He's not going to play this year unless Carson Beck gets hurt. Nobody wants to root for those type things. So, and then even then, he's got to compete with a guy who's been around for 2 or 3 years in Gunnar Stockton. So, to me, if Georgia doesn't get this thing to happen quickly, I think its chances start to dwindle a little bit. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it becomes an issue of all right, well, can these other programs sell him on the ability to play right now? Which is, I mean, let's face it, Josh, it's a very, very tough thing to turn down. Right now, you may be thinking one way as a prospect, but even as a guy to the transfer portal. But if you start making these other visits to these other places with these other coaches who start to sell you on their development plus the ability to play right away, I don't see how he turns that down. So I think it does need to happen quickly for Georgia if Georgia's going to get him.
Yeah, I agree. And he'd be a big splash if he ends up going to Georgia. Trevor Etienne was a big splash in the winter portal window. Is there anybody else in this spring window that is really a priority for Georgia right now?
No, that's it, man. I mean, right now it's Jaden Rashada or bust, and I'm not saying it's going to be that way. I think we've seen heck, I mean, 2 or 3, quarterbacks get into the transfer portal today. So it's definitely far from over. I think we've got like a week left in this deal.
Right.
So I could certainly see there being another quarterback to get in. I think the safety is another position Georgia's going to be watching via the transfer portal. I think it's something that another position where they would like to add. I will say that, for any Georgia fans kind of watching this that don't follow us over at Dogs HQ, one thing that's been surprising for us is since the portal window opened, not hearing as much about D-line, not hearing really anything about Georgia being interested in trying to get into the D-line market, which is something we kind of anticipated. But it sounds like maybe they saw enough this spring or maybe they got a few guys to kind of come on that they feel a little bit better about that situation and don't think that's a priority at all.
All right, Jake. Well, we appreciate it. Dog fans, tap in with me. Let me know. Comment section below. Do you guys feel like you need Jaden Rashada? Do you think he ends up a dog when this window closes? Let me know. Comment section below. The transfer portal is booming, and Auburn, they're getting their fill. They've landed 3 major commitments in the past 48 hours, and they're looking for more, most notably the top wide receiver in the portal. I got Jeffrey Lee from Auburn Live in this video. We're going to break it all down, but first, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We're growing this page. We need you Auburn fans to be a part of it. Hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in Jeffrey Lee for Auburn Live. Now, over the weekend, Penn State wide receiver Keonjay Lambert-Smith was on campus, visited Auburn, then he went to Texas A&M. Now there's reports that he might be at USC this weekend. Jeff, how big of a priority is he for Auburn?
He's a very big priority. And Auburn's got a loaded wide receiver room. They really do, especially coming from this 2024 class. And they certainly will add to that when Perry Thompson gets on campus, when Malcolm Simmons gets on campus. But we're talking about freshmen. They're a very young group. They really need a kind of a mentor, an experienced guy to come in and show them what it takes to get to where he is, which is a highly coveted, one of the most highly coveted wide receivers in college football. So, they kind of need that somebody to show them the ropes. Yeah. And he even mentioned that when he was on campus, that's kind of what their challenge was to him, is come in here and show these guys what it takes to walk like a pro, to act like a pro, to work like a pro, to play like a pro. And so they've prioritized him very highly and got him on campus, and it seems to have gone fairly well.
All right. And we know he's going to maybe make it out to USC this weekend. He's been at Texas A&M. Where do you think Auburn stands in this recruitment?
I don't think they're at the top. I don't. I think Texas A&M probably is the team to beat coming into this week off of that A&M visit. I do think – I don't know – NIL is obviously going to be a big play for these guys in the transfer portal, especially a guy like Lambert-Smith. Is Auburn willing to play that game? Are they willing to spend the money to get him? I kind of got the feeling Saturday when he left that maybe he loved everything, but maybe the NIL wasn't there, or at least that he was expecting. Now, will Auburn go back and satisfy these? And I kind of think from talking to some people that maybe they will. Mm-hmm. But I think, there's work to be done there for Auburn, and maybe it was more on the NIL side of things than it was on the roster and playing time and offense and all the other stuff.
All right. Now, you and I have talked a lot on this show all offseason about the idea of Auburn pursuing a transfer quarterback. And up until this point, there really hasn't been one that Auburn's really gone full bore for. But now that Jaden Rashada is leaving Arizona State, he's currently at Georgia as you and I speak, do you think that Auburn kicks the tires here on Jaden Rashada?
Absolutely. Kicks the tires? Absolutely. Yes, I do. I think they already have. I think whether or not they make a big push for him or any other transfer portal quarterback likely depends on what their current room does. Does anyone leave? Does a Holden Gurner leave? Does a Henry Brown? I always call him Henry, and it throws me off. Does Hank Brown leave? So I think if no one leaves their current quarterback room, Walker White's obviously in there as well, but he's not going anywhere, at least I presume. So you've got 4 scholarship quarterbacks there, and that's kind of what you want going into the season. So I don't think that they'll look to add another one unless somebody else leaves or unless somebody leaves. So it's kind of a day-to-day thing. Do we expect anybody from the quarterback room to leave? I thought maybe so 2 weeks ago. Now I'm not so sure. So it's kind of a day-to-day thing with the transfer quarterback. Will they bring him in to visit? Maybe, just to make sure that they're in the game should they need him down the road. But as of right now, it's kind of day-to-day with Auburn's transfer quarterback recruiting.
do you think part of the hesitation could be because of where they stand with Juju Lewis? Now, because Jaden Rashada is a multi-year transfer, that could impact where they stand with Julian Lewis. And with Georgia bowing out of that sweepstakes, you got to like where Auburn stands right now with him. Do you think that plays into the decision to take a transfer quarterback at all?
Absolutely. I think that's something you have to consider. Rashada's got 4 years of eligibility, if I'm not mistaken, so he would technically be 1 year ahead of one year ahead of Juju Lewis or any other 2025 quarterback they bring in. So that's something to consider. Does that work against you, bringing in a guy with 4 years of experience right now? So it's kind of a tightrope, man. And I think they're going back and forth at Auburn. I think that coaching staff is back and forth on kind of whether they want to make a push for Rashada. Do they feel good about where they are with Juju Lewis? Does that even impact? Maybe they run that by Juju Lewis in his camp. And, hey, listen, if somebody leaves and we bring a guy like Rashada in, we're only replacing what already was here.
Yeah.
Is that the pitch that they put to him? Because in all honesty, when the numbers work out, that's kind of what they would be doing. Now, would they take Rashada should no one else leave or no one leave? That's kind of getting more into the Juju camp as far as affecting his recruitment with Auburn.
All right, well, we'll see where things stand. The transfer portal is moving fast. Like we said, Jaden Rashada is currently in Athens for a couple days, so we'll see what happens this weekend. But right now, Auburn focused on filling a need at the wide receiver position. Jeffrey Lee from Auburn Live, thanks for dropping by the Inside Scoop, talking a little transfer portal today.
Absolutely, Josh. Always a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
It's transfer portal time, and I was going to have Pete Nakos, On3 portal expert, on to talk about a linebacker that's trending to Colorado. But boy, just a few minutes ago, Colorado lost a big one. Superstar freshman running back Dylan Edwards is now in the portal. So we got a lot to talk about on this one. Let's bring in Pete Nakos right now. Pete, let's start with Dylan. I didn't expect to start with this, but we're going to start with Dylan Edwards. Why do you leave Colorado? And hold on, before you get going, look at me. I'm all over the place. Don't give me he doesn't want to compete, because anywhere in big-time college football he goes, he's going to have to split some amount of carries with another running back. So I'm just not buying the notion that he's leaving Colorado for more carries.
I was told that from a few people close to Dylan, actually, Josh, that there's a belief that Colorado doesn't run the ball enough, and that with them bringing in some transfer running backs, that truly he believes he wouldn't get enough carries. But I know you don't want to hear that. I think there's also a part of it too, right? He's the third 2023 recruit to hit the portal this offseason. And I think that's really notable. But bouncing off of that too, just talking to some sources in the last 45 minutes now, since we broke the news with Steve Wiltfong that he went in, that he's going to go in, excuse me. I mean, I've heard a lot of chatter about Kansas State, Louisville, and then also Steve Wiltfong has also heard some rumblings about Nebraska. So this is going to be a really interesting one to follow. But, I mean, he had such a standout freshman season, and I know a lot of people think about that TCU game, and he's going to have quite the field of suitors who are going to go after Dylan Edwards.
Yeah, he had under 400 yards rushing as a true freshman, but he caught 36 passes. I mean, a freshman wide receiver catching 36 balls in a season would be a great year, a great start. So Dylan Edwards was a huge part of that offense. I can understand that they maybe didn't run the ball enough for his liking, but everybody in college football right now is really throwing the heck out of it. Do you think, we know Tennessee was also in the market for a running back. Do you think Tennessee could become a factor for Dylan Edwards?
Speculating here, haven't been able to track down any sources yet at Tennessee, but I would have to think that the Vols are going to get involved. They need a running back. He's got a ton of upside. And the one thing, I mean, you mentioned the 36 catches. I mean, having some conversations today, some people view him more as like a slot receiver more than a running back, kind of a guy who can do a little bit of everything for your offense.
Yeah, it's just a little weird to me. I don't think it's because of lack of carries. I mean, Coach Prime recruited him out of high school. He flipped him from Notre Dame, brought him to Colorado. He had an excellent freshman year, and now he's gone. So we'll see what happens here. Dylan Edwards in the portal. You guys tap in. Let me know, where do you think Dylan Edwards is going to land? Do Colorado fans, do you think he's coming back to Colorado? Is that a chance? Let me know. Comment section below. All right, let's talk about a running back where you think you know where he's going. We're talking Damian Martinez, who's leaving Oregon State. You put in a prediction for him, but he's been adjusting his visit schedule. What's that look like right now, and where do you think he ends up landing?
So he over the course of the last week and a half, he's now called off visits to Kentucky and Tennessee, which really jumps out to me. He has gone on trips to Arizona, Mississippi State, and then Miami's going to get him on campus at the end of the week. But Josh, if we're being honest here, the Hurricanes are the only team who have actually gone in home with him now twice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the writing's on the wall. He has ties to the Miami area. It gives him a great platform to close out his college career. And ever since Cam Ward kind of flipped from the NFL back to Miami, I think that the Canes have been viewed this offseason as a destination for top offensive talent.
All right, let's talk. Okay, so when it comes to Damian Martinez, then, do you think this gets done by the end of the weekend? Yes or no?
Yes.
All right, there you have it. So he could be a Cane by the end of the weekend. That'd be big. And now we were initially going to talk in this video about a linebacker, Nakos Hill-Green, trending to Colorado. Now it looks like Nakos Hill-Green is going to take a visit to Texas A&M. How big of a competitor are they to Colorado? Or are you still confident that he ends up at Buffalo?
I talked to Nakos Hill-Green on Sunday. The plan was still to go to A&M, but I really like where the Buffs sit right now. Mm-hmm. In our conversation, he just talked about how impressed he was and how he thinks that might be the best place for him at this point to help his NFL draft prospects.
All right. Now let's shift our attention over to quarterback Jaden Rashada. A bit of a surprise when he hit the portal from Arizona State about 48 hours ago. He's already at Georgia. As you and I speak, he's already in Athens. How did that transpire so quickly?
So he goes in late last week. I'm told at the time he's supposed to go to Athens on Monday, so it would have been yesterday. Then hearing some different things from sources, and then at the last minute, I think he decides to go this week with his father, Harlan, to Athens, and they're there now. And from my understanding, Kirby Smart and his staff have a jam-packed 48 hours for Jaden Rashada. And I think there's a few factors here to watch. I don't know if it's going to be instant, like an instant commitment. But at the same time, I had someone who I trust today is like, whenever Georgia gets someone on campus these days in the transfer portal, you kind of know it's headed in the Bulldogs' way.
Do you think it gets beyond Georgia? Do you think Rashada's recruitment goes beyond this visit?
I think we'll have a really good idea in the next 24 hours. I have some sources close to the camp in Georgia, and I think I'll get a really good idea in the next 24 hours or so.
All right. The last person I want to talk to you about, the last prospect, is edge Nigel Kelly. He's leaving Miami. He's a big-time prospect 2 cycles ago out of South Florida. It looks like UCF and Missouri. Kind of surprising, no UF or FSU involved in Nigel Kelly.
Yeah, at the moment, heard a lot about UCF, and then he also took that visit to Missouri this past weekend, and I think the opportunity to play in the SEC and what the Tigers had to offer really stood out to him.
Do you think there could be another Tiger involved, meaning the Auburn Tigers?
Auburn has had so much success on the defensive line in this transfer portal.
That's true.
I know everyone is always like, when Texas gets involved, watch out. I think Auburn is all of a sudden a school to watch too when it tries to get involved on the line of scrimmage, just with the success they've had in the last week.
All right. Well, Pete Nakos, it's been a busy day. Probably only going to get busier. Appreciate you taking a little bit of time to drop by the Inside Scoop.
You bet. Thanks so much, Josh.
Well, you've made it to the end of today's video, but there's hundreds more videos on the On3 Recruits channel for you to check out. And also, while you're here, hit subscribe.